Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate Bodhicitta. Now we continue with the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. We have completed the third chapter of the Platform Sutra. Now we come to the fourth chapter, the chapter on Samadhi and Wisdom, which mainly discusses meditation and wisdom. Through the teaching of sudden enlightenment, it explains meditation and wisdom. Ordinarily, the concepts of meditation and wisdom that we learn in other teachings differ somewhat in content, but this is actually quite good. In what way should we understand the supreme wisdom and meditation of the Chan school? The master instructed the assembly saying, "Good friends, my teaching takes samadhi and wisdom as its foundation. Great assembly, do not be confused. Do not say that samadhi and wisdom are separate." The sixth patriarch gave this teaching before the assembly saying, "Good friends, you should know that my teaching, the Chan teaching, the profound teaching uniquely transmitted by the sixth patriarch, takes meditation and wisdom as its foundation. Not only are meditation and wisdom the foundation, but meditation and wisdom are in fact non-dual and inseparable, merged as one. This principle serves as the foundation. The great assembly present today should not be confused and say that meditation and wisdom are separate, that they are distinct. You cannot say this. So everyone here should understand this. Usually when we speak about discipline, it is taught this way. From discipline arises meditation, from meditation arises wisdom. From discipline, meditation is produced, from meditation, wisdom is produced. After attaining wisdom, one accomplishes the three trainings of discipline, meditation, and wisdom. Taking the three trainings as the foundation, one benefits sentient beings and so forth. We often emphasize this in our ordinary practice. But here, firstly, discipline is not mentioned. Even if it is mentioned, the three trainings of discipline, meditation, and wisdom should be non-dual in essence. When we taught entering the middle way, discipline does not mean the vow of refraining from negativity or the vow of accumulating virtue, which are not emphasized. As soon as there is clinging to characteristics, one exhibits the characteristic of breaking vows. Therefore, it is stated here that the sixth patriarch's sudden teaching primarily emphasizes wisdom and meditation. Especially some great masters and enlightened ones of the Chan school, in their manifestation, did not particularly emphasize the pratimoksha vows of the Hinayana. Looking at history, they did not place special emphasis on this aspect. It is not that they completely disregarded it, but they did not particularly emphasize it. Unlike the Vinaya school in the Han region that specializes in studying discipline, each school has its differences in this regard. For example, in Tibetan areas there are many great masters who teach the pratimoksha. When they specifically propagate discipline, their emphasis on precepts is extremely high. If one directly teaches the supreme view of the secret mantra, it is not that they neglect it, but in their practice they do not emphasize it as much as the Vinaya school of the Han region. Therefore, the sixth patriarch here does not mention discipline from among the three trainings for this reason. Samadhi and wisdom are one, not two. Samadhi is the essence of wisdom. Wisdom is the function of samadhi. When it is wisdom, samadhi is in wisdom. When it is samadhi, wisdom is in samadhi. According to the essential teachings, meditation and wisdom are actually one. These two are not separate. They are not two distinct essences. Moreover, the way they are unified is, for example, when studying logic, the essence is non-dual. There are also many explanations such as one essence with different aspects. The way of being unified here is that meditation is actually the essence of wisdom, and wisdom is the function of meditation. For example, the essence of water is wetness, and the function of water is to moisten. So in reality, its function and essence, in terms of essence, cannot really be separated. But if we distinguish them as different aspects, meditation is the essence, and its function, its wondrous function, should be wisdom. There is a difference in this regard. This is actually what we call the union of shamatha and vipassana. Master Jigme of the Tiantai school composed the great shamatha vipassana. Later, Master Zhanran of the Tang dynasty also explained the views of the great shamatha vipassana. The middle way is the dharmadhatu. The dharmadhatu is shamatha vipassana. At this point, we understand that shamatha and vipassana actually means wisdom, and shamatha means meditation. In the secret mantra, when His Holiness explained pointing out the nature of mind, one must recognize the essence of the natural meditation inherent in the mind. When these two are truly merged as one, that is when one truly recognizes awareness. This is actually a very high state of Dzogchen. His Holiness also said in some of his songs that originally he did not wish to reveal this state to others. It was the omniscient Mipham Rinpoche who specifically bestowed upon him a very secret teaching. But unintentionally it was already revealed this time, as mentioned in one of his Vajra songs. Mipham Rinpoche specifically transmitted to His Holiness and bestowed upon him this teaching and state. This is actually the most definitive union of shamatha and vipassana. Shamatha means the natural abiding of the essence of mind. This abiding does not mean that only when thoughts cease is it called abiding. It should not be like that. The mind inherently possesses a natural meditation. The essence of Tathagatagarbha naturally possesses meditation. Through the Guru's Pith Instructions, one has recognized the true face of this meditation. This is called wisdom. Therefore, wisdom and meditation, in the ultimate state of enlightenment, cannot be separated. If we try to separate them, it may only be our discriminating thoughts, only our delusions that separate them. Apart from that, there is nothing to separate. So the sixth patriarch also says here that samadhi is the essence of wisdom, and wisdom is the function of samadhi. When wisdom arises, samadhi is within wisdom. When the mind truly recognizes its nature in reality, its natural meditation abides within this wisdom. Just like fire and its heat, they cannot be separated. When you are abiding or in meditation, the samadhi here does not necessarily mean sitting in meditation. With both eyes closed all the time, this is called meditation. Many people think this way, but it is not necessarily so. It is an ultimate state where the mind is not captured by external objects. When one is in meditation, in reality, wisdom is also within meditation. Not even for an instant are they separate. If you understand this meaning, this is the equal study of samadhi and wisdom. Practitioners of the path do not say that samadhi first generates wisdom, or that wisdom first generates samadhi, as if they were separate. If one recognizes the meaning of shamatha vipassana and samadhi wisdom explained above, then it truly counts as what Shakyamuni Buddha taught in the Mahayana Dharma, the teaching and thought of the equal oneness of meditation and wisdom. This is the supreme, highest, and most wondrous method of practice. Therefore, all practitioners of the path, you should not casually go around saying everywhere that first one has meditation, and after having meditation, one has wisdom. In our ordinary non-definitive teachings, we also say this. The mind settles down, and when your mind has settled, you can then recognize its nature. This is taught as a gradual method, not the method of sudden enlightenment. For those of sudden enlightenment, in their view, these are all deviations from the path. According to the gradualist approach, there are two paths. One is to first have samadhi, then generate wisdom, and the other is to first have wisdom, then generate samadhi. When we study different pith instructions of Dzogchen, some seek the view from within practice, while others seek practice from within the view. There are two approaches. In the seven treasuries as well, there are these two approaches. But here, what is mainly taught is the sudden enlightenment method. The sixth patriarch tells us never to go around saying that first the mind settles down, and after the mind has settled, then one observes. Many people practice this way now, don't they? First abide, and at this time do not generate discriminating thoughts. Abide for 6 months, abide for so many days, especially now many practitioners of Hinayana, including places like Sri Lanka, are promoting this now, also in Malaysia. Many of our lay practitioners here, they ask them to go there in a deep mountain, not thinking about anything for 15 days. After all your discriminating thoughts have been pacified, at that time the Guru will give you a pith instruction, and this is wisdom. Many people say this, but according to the sixth patriarch's sudden enlightenment method, one should not first settle and then generate wisdom. There are also some people who say one should first develop the wisdom of study, contemplation, and meditation, and recognize the essence of all things. First study the root stanzas of the middle way, first study much logic and madhyamaka. After basically analyzing all phenomena, then the mind settles down. This approach is also not suitable for him. Therefore, one should not think that wisdom first develops and then samadhi arises, with these two being separately divided. For those of sudden enlightenment, indeed they cannot be separated. But whether we are practitioners of sudden enlightenment, we also need to examine ourselves. Many people might wonder, have I made a mistake in my study and contemplation? Have I made a mistake by first practicing shamatha? There is no need to worry so much about this. Regarding the words of each great master, it is actually very important to be able to recognize the intention of these great masters. When study and contemplation reach a certain point, oh, why do these great masters say this is a deviation, this is something else? So we people still have certain differences. Those who hold this view, the Dharma has two characteristics. Their mouths speak good words, but their hearts are not good. They have samadhi and wisdom in vain, for samadhi and wisdom are not equal. If both mind and mouth are good, inner and outer are as one, then samadhi and wisdom are equal. If one sees this principle, that samadhi and wisdom are separate, the Dharma has two characteristics. Whether samadhi arises first or wisdom arises first, the Dharma included in samadhi and wisdom becomes an attachment to two characteristics. In this case, no matter what good words they speak, saying these are the Tathagata's teachings and so forth, in reality, their minds have not attained the supreme ultimate intention of the Buddha, the truly ultimate virtue. Indeed, according to the sixth patriarch, view, one can also say that when we teach the supreme Dzogchen, all temporary gradual methods are, and the reason why they are called deviations is also here. They have samadhi and wisdom in vain, for samadhi and wisdom are not equal. Such people can be said to have samadhi and wisdom in vain. The training of wisdom and the training of samadhi, meditation and wisdom are not being utilized. They practice in vain, not utilizing them fully. He says samadhi and wisdom are actually not like this, because samadhi and wisdom are one. It is not studying one first and then the other, or saying that samadhi and wisdom are completely separate. We all should understand that samadhi and wisdom in the secret mantra are also like this. In the most ultimate level of the Chan school, these two are inseparable. Within samadhi there is wisdom, within wisdom there is samadhi. Samadhi and wisdom can be said to be non-dual. When they arise, it is not that first one has meditation and then becomes enlightened. These two manifest simultaneously. If both mind and mouth are good, inner and outer are as one. If we truly realize that samadhi and wisdom are non-dual, having realized this state in our minds, and our mouths also say that samadhi and wisdom are non-dual, at this time inner and outer are the same. Externally in our speech, we also say that samadhi and wisdom are one. Internally, the state that we ourselves have realized and attained, samadhi and wisdom are inseparable. At this time, we have truly realized the Tathagata's intention. As we explained the other day in the three principal aspects of the path, at a certain point there is no alternation. At the same moment, both appearance and emptiness have been realized. At this time, the ultimate view has been perfected. The analytical view has reached its culmination. This is the true intention of the Tathagata. So here it has been explained that when we speak verbally, when speaking, we might mention the three trainings of discipline, meditation and wisdom, first having samadhi, then having wisdom. It is acceptable to say this, but these are all for those of average faculties, gradualists. We can say this to ordinary gradualists. I believe the sixth patriarch would not deny this point. Otherwise, he also knows that here, besides him, there are many others whose faculties are not like his. It is impossible for him not to know that so many of us are not like him. If we were like him in a very short time, after 8 months of study and 8 months of aspiration, we would immediately be enlightened. But from his own realization, when propagating his spirit and his sudden enlightenment Chan thought, he has to say this. Indeed, for those with faculties like his, there would be no gradual path. This point, in our later studies actually, as I have mentioned many times before about the Chan school, studying together this time, I wonder if those of you present have this feeling. If, like in the Secret Mantra, not to mention many other tantras, like the Secret Mantra section of Finding Comfort and Ease in the Nature of Mind, the sections of the Great Net of Illusion, and some principles from the Gathering of Intentions Sutra, for those who have studied these, studying the Platform Sutra is particularly easy. Every word, every principle here becomes very easy. Moreover, one must use this kind of thought to explain it. Otherwise, in the past, one may have only read the 3 Pure Land Sutras and 1 Shastra, or just some recorded sayings of individual Chan masters. When explaining in this way, I am afraid there will be some places with doubts, some things that cannot be explained. Therefore, I think it is very important for the exoteric and esoteric teachings to learn from each other. Even for those studying the exoteric teachings, if you want to fully understand some principles of the exoteric teachings, in the esoteric teachings, there are even more advanced, very detailed explanations and interpretations. Self-awakening through practice is not found in contention. If one argues about which comes first or later, this is the same as a deluded person. Not ceasing victory and defeat, one increases the Dharma of self, not departing from the 4 characteristics. In his sudden enlightenment teaching, generally speaking, through practice, one observes the essence of one's own mind. At this time, one has completely awakened oneself. Relying on a few teachings from the Guru, one then practices on one's own. This point indeed for many of us present, because the Buddha Dharma and the Guru only lead you to the entrance of the path. Beyond this, it is impossible for them to individually show you what to do, especially now with so many sentient beings, the so-called gurus who point out the nature of mind. In terms of recognizing the nature of mind, it is very important to observe one's own mind in daily practice. The realization and states of many great masters are naturally related to their exceptional aspirations and efforts from past lives. Most importantly, certain individuals in this very life, through their own wisdom, their own diligence, and their own faith, manifest through the power of these 3 forces. Therefore, everyone in the process of practice should not belittle themselves, thinking that someone like me absolutely has no way, someone like me with such heavy karma, such heavy afflictions, such heavy discriminating thoughts, how could such a person become enlightened? One cannot think this way. Actually, according to the teachings and biographies of many lineage masters, the essence of mind, if one observes one's own mind, it is easiest to realize its essence. If you truly recognize the nature of mind, then many problems in the world are readily resolved. If you have not recognized the essence of mind, no matter how much you practice with your body and speech on the surface, doing virtuous deeds, the power is not very great. Usually, when our minds are happy, no matter what environment you are in, there is no problem. If your mind is unhappy, even very small problems for you are particularly painful, even leading to suicide. Therefore, we need to tame our minds and train our minds to be capable. We need pith instructions from Buddhism. This point is very important. Therefore, practitioners achieve self-awakening through practice, not through contention. In their outward behavior, they will not contend. If one continually argues about various matters, whether theoretical or other things, if one argues endlessly, there is no difference from worldly deluded people. They will not engage in disputes about right and wrong, who wins, who loses, who is victorious, who is defeated, and so forth. They will not argue about these. If one argues in this way, it increases grasping at self and grasping at phenomena. Thus, gradually, one fundamentally does not depart, as stated in the Diamond Sutra, from the characteristic of person, the characteristic of self, the characteristic of sentient beings, the characteristic of life. One fundamentally does not depart from these. So how does the 6th Patriarch define the so-called contention? The true Chan school focuses primarily on one's own practice. Other disputes of right and wrong are not of much concern. Some of our current practitioners only care about their own practice, whether practicing the preciousness of human life or practicing the supreme secret mantra. Cultivating one's own mind is very important. In other aspects, even if they have wisdom, they are not willing to participate. This is also one method. Good friends, what is samadhi and wisdom like? It is like a lamp and its light. Where there is a lamp, there is light. Where there is no lamp, there is darkness. The lamp is the essence of light. Light is the function of the lamp. Though the names are two, the essence is fundamentally the same. This teaching of samadhi and wisdom is also like this. Below there is such an analogy. He says, good friends, if you do not quite understand the principle of meditation and wisdom and have some doubts, he uses a very good analogy to explain the relationship between these two. Wisdom and meditation are equivalent to the so-called lamp and the lamp's light, these two. Where there is a lamp, there will certainly be light. A lamp without light does not possess the characteristics of a lamp. If there is no lamp, there is no light, and it becomes pitch black. So we can say this. The lamp is actually the essence of light, while light is the function of the lamp. Didn't we discuss this earlier? The difference between wisdom and samadhi is that of essence and function. Therefore, although in name they can be separated as lamp and light, the sun and the sun's light, Bodhicitta's mind and mental factors, Longchenpa used such analogies, and some earlier great masters compared our mind with the mind's wondrous function, the mind's adornment, its display, to the ocean and the ocean's waves, or fire and fire's heat, the lamp and the lamp's light, the rainbow and the rainbow's colors, and so forth. These are some analogies often used by our predecessor great masters. Therefore, although these two can be separated, in reality they are the same. Therefore, as discussed earlier, samadhi and wisdom should be recognized as essence and function. At this point, I also feel that meditation and wisdom, these two, can also be explained using the lamp and its light, or we can say the nature of our mind and the various deluded discriminating thoughts that are currently arising. In reality, they should also be the wondrous function of awareness, the wondrous function of wisdom, the wondrous function of enlightenment. This point is also very important. When truly recognized, don't we often say, today I generated anger and feel very distressed. Today I generated desire and feel very painful. Of course, when I have not recognized its essence, indeed it has its harmful nature. In its manifestation, it certainly causes us to fall into suffering. But if I truly recognize it, for example, when I am generating anger, what is the essence of this anger? It is the non-duality of luminosity and emptiness. What is the essence of our mind? It is the non-duality of luminosity and emptiness. What is the essence of the entire world? Its primordial dharmadhatu. It is also like this. If one recognizes it, it will absolutely not cause me any harm. Therefore, why do we say that afflictions are bodhi, samsara is nirvana, or that the impure hells and the pure heavens are non-dual? These very profound intentions of the definitive scriptures can be embodied here. Therefore, although he says here that wisdom and meditation, these two, are explained in terms of essence and wondrous function, usually when our predecessor masters point out the nature of mind to us actually, in our Chan school, this time with the Platform Sutra, I am basically teaching it all using Dzogchen Pith Instructions. Perhaps the Dharma protectors also hope to forgive and grant permission for this. I also often go back in the evening to confess and recite to the Dharma protectors. Otherwise, when teaching, I cannot help but teach in this way. If I do not teach in this way, it feels as if the true meaning has not been unearthed. I believe they should grant permission. Next it says, the Master instructed the assembly saying, good friends, one practice. Samadhi means in all places, walking, standing, sitting, lying down, constantly practicing the direct mind. As the Vimalakirti Sutra says, the direct mind is the bodhimanda, the direct mind is the pure land. Earlier, the essence of meditation and wisdom has been described. Now we discuss one practice, samadhi. The sixth patriarch again began teaching to the assembly, saying, good friends, what is called one practice samadhi, sometimes called the one characteristic adorned samadhi, one practice samadhi means in all places. What does all places refer to? Whether you are walking, standing, sitting, or lying down in all behaviors, one abides in the direct mind. This direct mind here In our secret mantra, we often have pointing out the nature of mind. The master directly points out the original nature of mind. This is called pointing out the nature of mind. His Holiness became enlightened through Mipham Rinpoche's pointing out the nature of mind. Many long-term residents of our academy, older Dharma friends of the academy, will understand this. Perhaps newcomers may not necessarily know. I also taught pointing out the nature of mind before and translated it, but at that time the translation was relatively archaic. Now perhaps the translation method is somewhat different. Originally, I wanted to slightly revise it again. At the beginning, both pointing out the nature of mind and commentary on the luminous expanse of the great net of illusion were translated in a relatively archaic style. Later, the great net of illusion was already retranslated, but pointing out the nature of mind has not been yet. This was specially permitted by His Holiness at the time. There is a text specifically called Pointing Out the Nature of Mind, but the direct mind here actually means that we recognize, have already awakened. In the secret mantra, this is often called awareness. The awareness in the secret mantra and the direct mind in the Chan school, I think, should be the same. What is one practice samadhi, as stated here? Actually, in all the deportments of walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, abiding in a state of awakening, this is called one practice samadhi. Originally, one practice samadhi is also taught in the Maharatnakuta Sutra. If a son or daughter of noble family first realizes prajnaparamita, this person abides in one practice samadhi. What is called one practice samadhi means abiding in accordance with the dharmadhatu. In accordance with truth, abiding in the dharmadhatu, this kind of meditation is called one practice samadhi. Also in the Maharatnakuta Sutra it is said, what is called one practice samadhi means with one pointed mind, concentrating on visualizing the image of the Buddha. Visualizing the Buddha's image actually equals visualizing all Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Through this, immeasurable and boundless merit is attained. This can also be called one practice samadhi. In the Maharatnakuta Sutra, there are different explanations. One is the emptiness realized through prajna, which can be called one practice samadhi, and also our one-pointed visualization of the Buddha. Now some say that Guru Yoga cultivates one's imagination. Some people say this now. Now using some worldly language, visualizing Guru Yoga is good. Why? Because if you often visualize in this way, you cultivate your imagination becomes very rich. The direct mind here should be a kind of awakening, a state of mind that recognizes the essence of mind. This point, in the Vimalakirti Sutra, the Vimalakirti Sutra states, the direct mind is the bodhimanda, the direct mind is the pure land. I looked at the Vimalakirti Sutra. When the youth Ratnakara went to inquire about layman Vimalakirti's illness, at that time there was specifically this phrase, the direct mind is the bodhimanda. It seems that the direct mind is the pure land is found in its commentaries, but this exact phrase does not seem to appear directly. Phrases like the direct mind is the bodhisattva's pure land should be present. At that time, the direct mind is the bodhimanda. Now many people also think, my mind is very upright, I am very impartial, so this mind is the bodhimanda. I am a very good person, so there is no need to study Buddhism. My mind is the bodhimanda, my mind is the pure land. Actually, in some places we may still need to think carefully. On the surface, the direct mind, a mind without deceit, is called the direct mind, but actually it truly means a mind with awakening. The direct mind is the bodhimanda because it is without falseness. Generating practice is the bodhimanda because it can accomplish matters. There are many such passages. You can also look at them when convenient. Here it is already explained that the direct mind is the bodhimanda of Buddhism. That is to say, if we have the awakening that recognizes emptiness, this place has a bodhimanda. For example, the place where one reads the Diamond Sutra and realizes the Diamond Sutra can be called a bodhimanda, can also be called a stupa. If one has an awakened mind, this place can be called a pure land. Do not practice deceit in the mind while only speaking of directness with the mouth. Speaking of one practice samadhi with the mouth, but not practicing the direct mind, when one truly recognizes the nature of mind, it can be called one practice samadhi, the direct mind bodhimanda. But we absolutely cannot have our minds run contrary to the truth, completely distorting the truth. Not having recognized the nature of mind, yet verbally saying we have already recognized it, the direct mind is the bodhimanda. Speaking of one practice samadhi in this way, but in reality, one's own state has fundamentally not reached the direct mind. This is very frightening. Much of society now is like this. The mind has fundamentally not reached this state, yet everywhere, with every utterance, one says, the direct mind is the bodhimanda. Bodhi is afflictions. The Buddha is myself. Sentient beings are Buddha. There is no need to accumulate merit. Let wine and meat traverse the gut. The Buddha abides within the heart. Many people use these simple phrases because they themselves like to eat meat. They themselves like to drink alcohol. There are many similar phrases that have destroyed the true original meaning of Buddhism. This is not permissible. But practice the direct mind. Regarding all phenomena, have no attachment. If you truly possess the direct mind, truly have the state of the direct mind, then regarding all phenomena, there is no attachment whatsoever. Is this so? Many people are not like this, right? You are attached to eating. In all your various aspects, inside and out, you are attached to everything. But verbally, you speak very nicely. Such practitioners in the degenerate age are everywhere. Therefore, the true direct mind bodhimanda is indeed not very easy. But we also cannot deny it because you yourself have not reached this state. Now, some non-Buddhists often look at us practitioners and feel that these people are very pitiful. How do these people live? They seem to have an attitude of contempt. I also understand this very well. I sometimes, towards people who do not study Buddhism, people without Buddhist realization, also often perhaps have a kind of pride. These people are very pitiful, so attached to life, busy every day. They do not even understand the principle of impermanence in their human life of several decades. Even at death, they still do not know what they have actually accomplished in this world. They do not even know whether their next life exists or not. They do not understand such simple principles as all phenomena being empty. So Milarepa looked at non-practitioners as pitiful. Non-practitioners looked at Milarepa as pitiful. These two also need a kind of common point of balance. So I think in our current world, without the direct mind, yet constantly speaking big words, this is indeed not good. Including among our practitioners, we also need to pay attention. I think among many lineage disciples of His Holiness, indeed, in this regard, there are relatively few people who speak big words, even excessively humble. Actually, excessive humility is also unnecessary. Deluded people grasp at the characteristics of phenomena, clinging to one practice samadhi. They directly claim, constantly sitting without moving, with delusions not arising, the mind is one practice samadhi. Those who understand it this way are the same as inanimate objects. This becomes an obstruction on the path. He says here that some deluded people grasp at these characteristics of phenomena. Their minds have not realized, yet they cling to one practice samadhi, directly saying, when sitting in meditation, the body cannot move, and the mind cannot give rise to any delusions. This is one practice samadhi. If you truly understand it this way, if you truly tell others this way, it is no different from inanimate phenomena, understanding nothing, capable of nothing. Much of our sitting meditation nowadays, the truth is, some aspects of Chan Buddhism haven't been properly studied. If one studies the Platform Sutra well, some people will not be without response. They should be able to remove obstructions on the path. If when you sit in meditation, your body does not move and your mind does not think of anything, and this is the true one practice samadhi, this is the ultimate view in the true Chan school, then the predecessor great masters would all be worthy of praise. But in reality, this is not the case. This is comparable to inanimate phenomena. In Mipham Rinpoche's beacon of certainty, it is likened to throwing a stone into the ocean. There is no lucid aspect of vipassana whatsoever. There are such cases. Some great masters use other analogies, such as the so-called snow marmot and so forth. Using other animals as analogies, there are such examples. Therefore, this is an obstacle in practice. If you think of nothing, it does not necessarily constitute true meditation. Even if it is a worldly meditation, you may only be reborn in the formless realm, in the sphere of infinite consciousness, the sphere of infinite space, the peak of existence, and so forth. In these states, for 80,000 years, for an extremely long time, thinking nothing at all. Even when we go to the seaside, there are some stones that still have life. Many professionals, in the process of conducting experiments, feel that there is still sensation within these. It is very possible that if we do not practice well, we could become like this. There are such cases, therefore this will not become a proper condition for practice. It is an obstacle on the path. Good friends, the path must flow freely. Why should it become stagnant? When the mind does not abide in phenomena, the path flows freely. If the mind abides in phenomena, this is called binding oneself. The sixth patriarch continued saying, "Good friends, you should understand that the true path requires the mind to be unobstructed. In our secret mantra, we specifically speak of being thoroughly unobstructed, thoroughly aware, naked awareness, without any obstruction. When you generate any discriminating thought, good discriminating thoughts or bad discriminating thoughts, or whether in the state of sleep or in the waking state, when everything is recognized for its nature, in this state of awakening where luminosity and emptiness are non-dual, there will be no worry. Generally, beginners are particularly afraid, generating a discriminating thought. I generated a discriminating thought again. They feel very distressed. Some who have just begun studying Buddhism, especially when the mind cannot settle down, try to abide for a moment but cannot sustain it. Some even punch themselves, saying, "Why did I generate discriminating thoughts again? Do not generate discriminating thoughts anymore, or I will kill you." Then they start using their fists to strike themselves. This is also useless. Although these may be the behaviors of some beginners, this is not correct. To recognize the supreme teaching, the sixth patriarch's teaching requires unobstructedness. The mind must be completely unobstructed. At this time there is no obstruction, no traffic jam. There will be no discriminating thoughts blocking you, nor will there be discriminating thoughts stuck within you. When the mind does not abide in phenomena, the path flows freely. The mind does not abide in any phenomenon. Everything is awareness, everything is luminosity, everything is a wondrous function of the path. In this state, of course, it is very easy for us to speak of, but indeed quite difficult to accomplish. However, our realization of this principle is also very important. It is just that we have not yet reached this state. We know that there is such a vast path ahead. It is just that we ourselves still have a certain distance from this vast path. Therefore, realizing the principles of Dharma is also very meaningful. If the mind abides in phenomena, this is called binding oneself in a cocoon. One has already trapped oneself. As we just discussed, merely not moving the body is not necessarily the highest state. True Chan practice lies not in crossed legs. True Buddha recitation lies not on the lips. We already discussed this earlier. Now many beginners, though in terms of deportment, this is also very good, but they talk all day about how to sit, discussing every day whether they can sit in full lotus. Many do not cultivate the mind, constantly discussing these matters. This is not very important. If you say that constantly sitting without moving is correct, it is just like Shariputra sitting peacefully in the forest, yet being scolded by Vimalakirti. If we often say that the body remaining motionless and the mind remaining motionless is the true one practice samadhi, then when Shariputra was sitting in meditation in the forest, why did layman Vimalakirti scold him? We know that in the Vimalakirti Sutra, the Buddha's 10 great disciples, when layman Vimalakirti manifested illness, all went there to inquire about his health. At the beginning, it seems Shariputra was asked, and only at the end could Manjushri Bodhisattva go. Each of the others said they had a past encounter with him and could not go. When it came to Shariputra, the Buddha said, representing me, "You go to layman Vimalakirti's place." He said, "I dare not go. Why do I not dare to go? Previously, when I was sitting in meditation in the forest, layman Vimalakirti said to him, 'Sitting with your body in the lotus position, and your mind abiding is not meditation. True meditation is when the mind has departed from all grasping at characteristics, and the body has departed from all forms. Only then is it true meditation. True meditation has no outer abiding or inner abiding, nothing at all. Only this is called true meditation. True meditation means not abandoning afflictions yet directly attaining nirvana. Only this is true meditation. At that time, layman Vimalakirti instructed him based on a very profound state. At that time, regarding this, because Shariputra practiced meditation according to ordinary Hinayana Shamatha Vipassana, at that time this auspicious connection was specifically taught. Why does the sixth patriarch quote this here? He says, if the mind not moving and the body not moving were the ultimate view, then at that time Shariputra would not have received layman Vimalakirti's scolding. Therefore, we should know that in the future process of propagating Chan, one should not blindly emphasize that as long as you abide, it is enough. As long as your mind does not move, it is already enough. One cannot say this. Of course, is this a process? For us beginners, when the mind settles down and the body settles down, when we have college students doing summer camps or winter camps, we have them sit cross-legged, everyone's mind settles down. Because they are just beginning, there is no need to worry about the highest state of Chan. Some have particularly heavy discriminating delusions. If told not to think of anything for a while, they simply cannot do it. Like wild horses that have never been tamed, such discriminating thoughts cannot possibly have the highest state of Chan. So, temporarily having them sit in the Vairochana sevenfold posture, there is nothing unreasonable about this. But there is a supreme state. What we are teaching here is the supreme Chan state. At that time, you cannot take it as the highest. Otherwise, he would not have received Vimalakirti's scolding. Good friends, there are also people who teach sitting, observing the mind and viewing stillness, not moving, not arising. From this they establish merit. Deluded people do not understand and cling to this, becoming deranged. There are many such people. Teaching in this way, one should know this is a great mistake. Below it says, good friends, you should know there are people who require everyone to sit in meditation. When sitting in meditation, observe your own mind, continually observing, in stillness, abiding, not moving, not arising. Do not let discriminating thoughts arise. Put everything down completely. But some deluded people, without wisdom, foolish people, they do not understand and still take it as true practice to maintain. Clinging to it in this way, eventually they become afflicted with madness. This is very dangerous. So many people mutually transmit this kind of Chan method. We also see this now. In the Han region as well as in Tibetan areas, in many places it is just as described here. When sitting, do not move. The mind should also not move. Do not look elsewhere. You need to let the mind settle down. This is the highest, the best. Including some current Qigong practices, they take some principles from Buddhism out of context, taking only part of them, then say, this is our own practice method. When you breathe, do it in such and such a way. The eyes cannot look at external objects. The mind must settle down. Below, you should not cling. Some people are blindly directing, often spreading from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100. This is actually a great mistake. Authentic Chan often speaks of the blind leading the blind, dragging each other into a pit of fire. There are various sayings, so this is very dangerous. Therefore, our most ultimate practice cannot have everyone abide in such a state. This is not very reasonable, because what is being propagated here is the supreme teaching without attachment. In such teaching, even our ordinary virtuous actions do not need to be done. Previously, in the comprehensive record of the Buddha and Patriarchs, through the ages there is such a book in the Han region. In it there is a master named Jayata. Actually, he was a great master who propagated the sudden teaching. Once he specifically went to various major cities to propagate his sudden teaching. There was a master called Master Samantabhadra who had many disciples. He himself practiced Dhutanga every day, eating one meal at midday, bowing to the Buddha 6 times daily, extremely diligent. He saw that his disciples were also very earnest in their outer conduct, but in terms of the true union of shamatha and vipassana in their minds, they had not achieved it. He asked his disciples, "What kind of attainment does your master have?" They said, "Our master is so diligent, not far from Buddhahood." He said, "Your master of this kind is certainly very far from the Buddha. With this method of practice, even through many lifetimes and eons, one will not achieve it." His disciples were particularly displeased. Later he taught some things. The disciples were very unhappy and asked him, "What do you think is the true method of attainment?" He said, I also do not bow to the Buddha, nor do I disrespect the Buddha. I also have no mind of contentment, nor any mind of greed. I also do not have the practice of eating one meal at midday, but I also do not have excessive eating, and so forth. He taught the middle way method of Chan practice. At this time, their master also heard this. After he finished speaking, he said, I said this, are you displeased? Then Master Samantabhadra said, I have nothing to be displeased about. Originally, 7 kalpas ago, through practice, I was about to attain the second fruit. My master also said I was about to attain the second fruit. But later, a bodhisattva of light came to our place. At that time, being old and leaning on a staff, I prepared to prostrate to him. When I bowed, on the one hand, my staff seemed to be propped against the Buddha statue on the front wall. Also, holding the staff before the master, I had a kind of disrespectful mind. Because of these 2 reasons, a kind of arrogant behavior, due to these 2 reasons, the master said, my opportunity to attain the second fruit was already gone. After that, in so many lifetimes, on the one hand, perhaps at that time I could also recall my past lives, he said afterward, other people's harsh words to me, I treated like the wind passing by my ears. I did not cling to them. Today, the profound teaching like nectar that you just transmitted to us, how could I generate dissatisfaction toward you? Impossible. I am very joyful. Later, Master Jayata discovered that this person truly realized his sudden enlightenment teaching. Then he transmitted the Dharma to him. So from this story, we can see that sometimes regarding the many different paths of practice in this world, on the one hand, we need to have a relatively tolerant mind. We ourselves practice the secret mantra. We cannot think that those who do not practice the secret mantra are all not practicing correctly. We ourselves practice Chan. We also cannot think that apart from Chan, all other views are unreasonable. But at this time, there is also something worth noting. In reality, many of our behavioral practices and the supreme prajna teaching within the mind, there is a certain difference between these. This should refer to the so-called gate of non-duality in the prajna teachings, which is explained in particularly great detail in the great Shamatha Vipassana. This point, with Dzogchen, in the exoteric teachings, the highest and deepest can be said to be the Vimalakirti Sutra. Why, when teaching the great net of illusion, is it often quoted? Why did Mipham Rinpoche quote these scriptural supports? There is a certain reason. In reality, the ultimate view of the exoteric teachings and our esoteric view have no difference. It is just that in the past, many people rarely made such comparisons. So now, with so many intellectuals in our community, I also hope that for each and every class, you take it as the most important class in this life, in your lifetime. Although I, as the teacher, should be very inferior, the Dharma I teach, I myself also believe should be very special. So Mipham Rinpoche used the analogy of a hungry dog vomiting gold. I am like a hungry dog, but what comes out of my mouth is like gold, having wisdom and value. Each of us should remember this. Why? Because the scriptures of Chan and the scriptures of the secret mantra are completely merged as one. Moreover, one also understands which are the deepest teachings and which are ordinary teachings. We will also discuss these teachings below. Actually, it is not a problem with the teachings, it should be a problem of faculties. But in terms of the method of expression, there are also differences in the teachings. Although we say the Dharma has no high or low, in reality, the content expressed ultimately all lead to the same destination by different paths. But in reality, the temporary methods are completely different. For example, what is taught in Prajnaparamita in the exoteric teachings, what Dzogchen teaches, what Chan teaches, in principle there is no difference. It is just that in terms of the method of expression, there are certainly differences. The faculties of us practitioners, that is to say, practitioners' faculties differ. At this time, we need to know how to analyze. If we do not know how to analyze, with such a dazzling array of goods in this modern commercial era, if one is slightly unfamiliar with commercial products, like a nomad from our Tibetan areas, if they go to the market, they cannot analyze at all. They may buy a whole bunch of counterfeit goods. They take these things back thinking they are treasures. So at this time, if we have a little bit of knowledge, oh, has this expired? Where was this bought? This is made in China, this is made in America, this is made in Germany. Perhaps German-made quality is a bit better. These people, they, this and that. With a little knowledge, one can also buy things correctly. So in the future, whether choosing teachings or practicing ourselves or recommending to others, we must have some wisdom. Without wisdom, whenever one encounters a teaching, one wants to pursue it. Whatever others say, you want to listen. There are various kinds of propaganda, various kinds of advertisements. Believing everything is true is also not certain. Behind them, in the shadows, there are also different manipulators. So regarding the Dharma itself is very good. But among those who propagate the Dharma and those who promote the Dharma, some people exploit the Dharma. This is most common in our current era. Some people, in order to achieve their own economic purposes or to achieve their personal various kinds of fame and other purposes, often hang the Dharma's exterior or facade out front, hanging a sheep's head while selling dog meat, right? This phenomenon is quite common. We must be careful now. So if we ourselves, theoretically, if on these issues have some analysis, we will not be deceived. Each person should have the wisdom to discern and choose. We will conclude here today.
Bandharangara Padmasada Bandharangara Padmasada